as everybody knows, or maybe you don't, because I have answered some tweets that don't understand that I don't work for WWE anymore, have not since early February. And I was told, I don't think I've said this, I'll say it now. I was told by Michael Cole when that happened, and he was not the one who let me go. It was an HR representative. I was told it had nothing to do with anything I did. It was a cost-cutting measure, whatever you want to call it. We're tightening the budget. And I reached out to Michael Cole, and I said, hey, anything you can tell me? And he was basically, okay, I guess you heard, blah, blah, blah. And more changes coming to the team. I think McKenzie had been let go a little bit before that. Kevin Patrick would move on after that, which I know was planned, and he planned. And my goodness, is Kevin Patrick. Kevin Egan, let me get his name right. He is the former Kevin Patrick in WWE. But Kevin Egan, absolutely kicking ass on MLS 360. Whether you're a soccer fan or not, they have figured out something very special on that show. He has absolutely found his sweet spot. And I'm so happy for him and his family kicking ass there. They have basically turned it into this red zone type show, and he is killing it. So I'm glad that he's doing well. But I was basically told more changes would be coming. And we have seen executives lead the company and wrestlers lead the company. Great Stambino, thank you to you. Loving that Razor and 1-2-3 Kid Elite. And Taker, this is the Raw set, the old Raw set. Thank you to you as well. So back to that. Changes have been coming. I think we saw a writer leave the company over the weekend, and at least to get announced that way. And let me tell you this right now. A lot of this news that trickles out, unless it comes from the people itself, it doesn't mean it happened right there and then. Like the story about me getting let go from WWE, that came out a week after it happened. I chose to keep quiet. It was my call. I was admittedly shell-shocked at the time. But it came out a week after, and that's when I started to get the messages and all that stuff. And that included from talent within the company. They didn't know. So that's how I chose to handle it. And WWE did not put any announcement out. I just disappeared. I disappeared off the bump. I disappeared off the shows. They made no mention of it, which admittedly I thought was pretty shitty. And I'm not asking for a future endeavors thing or anything like that. But, that tells you what family means when you work for a company. It doesn't mean shit. You're a number. And that's what I was. And I understand that. But that whole family and we're family and all this, it's total horseshit. I had 3 weeks prior to my release, The Rock show up at headquarters and tell me what a big family this is and shaking hands and all. Oh, we're so happy to have you all aboard. And I went through these town hall meetings after a bunch of cuts happened, and it was very, you're still here for a reason, and you're gone, and people go. And that's part of the business. I get that. But that whole family bullshit, and Rock's like, let's take a picture with everybody in it because I want to show that I was here, and I'm in that picture, and then I'm not there a couple weeks later. It's all who's making the money. What's the bottom line? It's a business. I get that. I'm not mad about that. That happens. But people move on, and they go along. And Kayla announced that she's gone. She had been there for 8 years, and she started NXT as a ring announcer, and she didn't know wrestling. Because I will tell you this, and we're going to see, because they, as far as I know, haven't made any new announce team hires in quite some time. They didn't want to hire wrestling people. If you look at the roster of who came from wrestling and who came from outside the world, let's go through it, right? So you look at the announce team. Michael Cole was a war correspondent, and the guy that I'm pointing to right there, Todd Pettengill, was the guy who brought Michael Cole in. Todd, also not a wrestling guy, if you want to go all the way back 30, 40 years. Kayla was doing morning talk show stuff in Florida. She worked out in Phoenix. Kevin Egan was doing more soccer type things. Sarah Schreiber did QVC, was an actress. She's still working. McAfee's different. That's a celebrity thing, but the announce teams now, Vic called wrestling. Vic called wrestling beforehand on the indies, but he also did radio and CBS in Cleveland, and he would come on my show on Sirius, so he was kind of a rare one. Kelly Kincaid, who's in NXT, she came from Ring of Honor, as people know. I came from wrestling in terms of being a fan, in terms of working for Busted Open, where I'm back with now, in terms of what I did on the indies with House of Hardcore. But I was not hired to be a TV personality. I was hired to be a digital personality, which is basically where I landed. Technically, the Raw Talk and SmackDown Lowdown, that stuff fell under the TV banner, even though it was a digital product because of where it was seen, but it was a TV product. So I was not hired. TV didn't hire with wrestling backgrounds. When Jackie Redmond was brought in, Jackie I think people know her from Hockey NHL Network, and you see her on Turner now, and she's, I think, the number one broadcaster in WWE in terms of her role. Basically, it's, taking the commentators out of it, taking Cole out of it and such, but, Jackie's the best one they have, and that's very obvious. But Jackie, when she got hired to do the post shows with me, Jackie came from Hockey. But she did cover wrestling before that, so she was able to jump back in, but she wasn't hired because she knew a lot of wrestling stuff. She hired because she was a hell of a broadcaster. And the whole thing was, hey, we can bring you in and teach you wrestling. We need qualified broadcasters. So, Kayla learned as she went. A lot of people learned as they went. And some people didn't work out because they didn't get it. And then Vink, the guy who called Raw after Tom Phillips, because that stupid firing that happened. And I'm glad Tom's still kicking ass in TNA right now. But Tom never should have been let go. But they bring in somebody who knew nothing about wrestling in the Thunderdome era and said, hey, go call Raw. Go call 3 hours of, at the time, atrocious television. I was there. I lived through it. Thunderdome Raws were rough. And to throw somebody into that role who can't feed off a crowd, who didn't know the product supremely well, he was a fan. He knew enough. It just wasn't fair to him. Jimmy Smith came in there with a good voice for it. But I know he didn't necessarily follow along with what they wanted. So they moved on from him. And they don't seem to have people in the pipeline. Think about it. Vic, Cole, Corey Graves had to get moved from color commentary to play-by-play and did a hell of a job at it. And I know that had been talked about for years, about that being a possibility. They have Blake Howard, I think he's in Level Up, who got there, I think, maybe a little over a year ago. Last January, I think he was hired. He replaced Sudu Shah, who just didn't work out. But they're not exactly cultivating all this talent if something goes wrong. They don't really have a bench. And it seems like with Kayla being gone, and she's saying that Friday's her last show at MSG, and pretty nice to be afforded that opportunity to go out at MSG, to put out a statement, and the company not denying it or anything like that, getting to go out on her own terms. And I think there's always more to that story. I think there's, and who knows what will come out. But she's going out on her own terms. And now, why did that happen? Did that happen because the new regime, people like Lee Fitting, who's running production, who took over for KD, said we don't need two people on SmackDown? Are they going to revamp what that looks like? I don't think any changes have stopped. I think they'll continue. I think you'll still see people exit the company that have been there for quite some time, right or wrong. And it's happened. There's been names that you never heard of that have exited the company recently. Great Stambino, shout out to you. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate that. I'm a hell of a better actor than what I saw last Monday. I'll tell you that. I'm just joking. Everybody could sell the Wyatt Six like they're dangerous, right? We'll get into that coming up in a little bit. But the changes will continue. It's a merger, and I think they'll make some changes for the good. There's been a lot of that. They'll make some changes for the bad. So we'll see what happens. Because right now, you think about it, Raw's got Jackie and Kathy. SmackDown's got Byron. Do they change some things up? You got new TV deals kicking in October. All of that stuff, I think we'll get a fresh look. Does Raw Talk exist in a few months? Does SmackDown Lowdown exist in a few months? Does the bump ever come back again? Because they've gone dead silent. Completely silent. Go look at the social media. Not a mention of coming back. Not a hint of coming back. I know there was a report out there saying next week, I guess, or 2 weeks, or whatever the heck, 6 weeks. Or 5. How long does it take to move? And they could be looking at all that stuff, as they should. They're going to put out new programming. They're going to change programming up. But I think they'll move on from stuff that they feel is in the past and is not helping anymore. Whether that be people, whether that be shows, whether that be content. That's what new companies do. And you can't deny what they're doing right now. Hey, this is Matt Camp. Thanks for checking out one of our recent clips from the Wrestling Mat. Why is someone so close to The Rock kind of throwing Cody under the bus?
Yeah, a lot of people won't engage with Jim Cornette. I did, just because I have a mark for Jim Cornette. And
Please subscribe right now. Hit the like and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing. And I think you should listen to your TV partners. Let me tell you about WWE and a little insight. More subscribers means more content. And make sure you follow us on social media at WrestlingMat23 on both Twitter and Instagram.